Hello everyone! I hope you're having a good day so far. Today we will be going through week 1 of Inktober. This is going to be the first installment of 4 different videos across the month of October. The first 7 drawings for Inktober are already completed, so without further ado, let's go! Alrighty, here we are with day 1 of Inktober. So the prompt list I'm following is called Ghostober, and it's by @FlukeLady if you want to go check out their stuff. I honestly just searched up Inktober prompts on Pinterest and I found this one. And I really liked this prompt list for a few different reasons. Number 1, sheet ghosts aren't super complicated to draw, so it wouldn't take me a very long time to do each day for Inktober. I have a hard time managing my own expectations for Inktober and the kinds of drawings I'll be able to finish every single day. And so the fact that I would be drawing a bunch of little ghosts, I think would really help me with keeping the drawing simple. Because, I'm really bad about being a perfectionist as well as an overachiever. So, as you can imagine, that's a little bit of a brutal combo to combat when you're doing a daily art challenge like this. But I digress. We're doing it so far so good. The prompt for day 1 of Ghostober is Ghost Family. So I essentially had the idea of drawing a little family photo with a ghost family. So I tried to make a fancy looking frame around it, a nice oval shape. This one wasn't too crazy. I do like how it turned out, but it's not necessarily one of my favorites out of the ones I've done so far anyway. The brush pen I'm using I love so much. It's from Pentel. Yeah, it is a Pentel brush pen. A lot of the label is in Japanese, but it's also been scuffed up a bit, so it's kind of hard to read. But I love this brush so much. And I actually bought a couple more recently because I really enjoy using them. For the colors on this bad boy, I just pulled out my bag of cheap water-based markers. Genuinely, I'm talking Crayola, Rose Art, just very basic markers that you would see even school children using. I find that the really cheap water-based markers are pretty good for sketchbooks. They're not expensive. They don't have a tendency to bleed through the paper, so that is really nice. And then you can see here I pull out a little golden pen that I got for Christmas. I only have one pen of this kind that's this shimmery, glittery type of ink, but I really enjoy using it whenever I do. I was concerned about how well the pen would work since I was scared that the glitter in it would clog it up and whatnot, but it actually turned out pretty okay, surprisingly. It doesn't seem to get clogged, and it goes on the paper just fine, so. And then I just pull out one of my little white gel pens and put a couple of highlights in the eyes. And bam! There we have it. There is the result for day 1 with the prompt of Ghost Family. So, on to day number 2. We go back in here again with just a normal pencil. Fun fact, I've had this pencil since I was in elementary or middle school. I can tell because it had my brother's initials on it, and I remember years and years ago he gave me all of his old colored pencils and stuff because he never used them. So I was like, I need to use this pencil. I've had it for way too long. So yeah, the word of the day for this prompt was swing. Like I said earlier, I was trying to keep things pretty simple just to keep myself from getting overwhelmed with Inktober, because I do have a habit of getting way too complicated with the drawings, and then I don't have time to complete them every single day, and it's a problem. One thing I thought that was pretty interesting about this piece was the little cloud border that I had put over the top. That was a new idea for me. I just wanted to find a way to nicely frame the picture, and I thought, well, I want to put a sky in there, so why not frame it using the clouds, of all things? I feel like the fact that the clouds are white and then the paper is also white kind of makes the clouds blend into it a bit with the finished piece, but still, I'm not mad about it. I am not mad about it. I went through the details, making the string actually look like a rope instead of chains. And I like the atmosphere of this piece. It just seems really cozy and spoopy and cute. That's the whole vibe I'm going for with a lot of my drawings. I go for the spoopy vibes. I'm not super into scary things. I just like that cute, whimsical kind of Halloween vibe, like magical feeling. And here you can see I pull out these gray-toned markers. I actually got these markers from one of my professors in a sketchbooking class, and I love these markers to pieces. There's only 4 markers in this specific set, so it's really convenient for carrying around with you if you're trying to do sketchbooking on the go. And the gray tones allow you to have a cohesive drawing where everything matches, but you still have your different values and whatnot. So I actually, during the first week of Inktober, ran out of ink for one of the markers, so I ended up ordering another set because I just loved them that much. So yeah, I go in and fill in the large black area with that brush pen that I was using earlier. I lined the whole drawing with a micron pen, and then I do all of the shading with the 4 little gray markers. I was pretty pleased with how this one turned out. Not too complicated, but I just thought it was really cute. I feel like the bushes got lost a little bit, but it happens, you know. It's a drawing challenge where you try to draw every single day. They're not all gonna be perfect masterpieces, but for what it is, I was actually fairly pleased with how this one turned out. And here we are, the final result for day 2 with the swing prompt. Okay, and here we start day number 3. The prompt for day 3 was the word cemetery. So obviously I start out here with drawing a nice big tombstone. I wanted it to be a bit of a fancier looking tombstone, the one in the front at least. It wasn't anything too crazy though, because, you know, once again, I didn't want to get stuck drawing these super crazy drawings, but I wanted the one in the front to be at least a little bit fancier to a certain degree. So I give it a nice giant cross tombstone. And then I put this cute little frog in there. I don't know why, but I just had this idea of a little ghost coming out from this one grave and looking at this little frog, and just this interaction between the two of them, and the frog being very curious about this little ghost friends that we have here. I love drawing little frog blobs. I don't know what it is, but they're friend-shaped, they make my heart happy, and I love them. I don't know what else to say. It's just cute. So obviously I have to throw in a few more little headstones because we can't just have a single one, of course, in this cemetery. So I had a few more in there, and then I go for a round composition once again because it seemed fitting for this piece. And since there were a few smaller details, I decided to use the micron pen once again to outline this. As you can see here, the cat was on my lap for a portion of this, so she kept like sticking her head and her tail within the frame. So, yes, just know that while I was drawing this one, Kiki received many pets and head pats while I was drawing this. Although I will admit, having a cat on your lap, does make inking a little bit difficult, because she was like, hey, I want head pats, and she would rub her little head against my hands, and I'm like, Kiki, I love you, but you're also making this extremely difficult when I'm working with a permanent marker here. So every now and then I have to kind of take her and rotate her the other way so she is facing my left hand instead. That way my right hand will be free to do the line art while I can pet her with the other hand, essentially. So yeah, I go back in here and fill in the sky with that brush pen once more. Then, once again, I go in with those 4 little gray-toned pens. Now, the trick here to using the gray-toned ones is making sure that you're leaving contrast between the different areas. Like, if I use 2 colors that are pretty near each other, then they're gonna blend into each other, essentially. So I decided to use the lighter gray on the grass, and then use a bit of a darker tone on the headstones to try and make them stand out a bit more. And then I just go in and add some shadow to things to make things pop, make it a bit more 3D, you know, the works. And then, of course, I go in with the white gel pen. I add some highlights to the eyes, add in some stars, and voila! Here we have the result for day number 3 of Inktober. Okay, so for day 4, I had so much fun with this one. So the prompt is under the sheet, and I was sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, what can I do for this prompt? Like, what would be under the sheet of this sheet ghost? And then I had an epiphany. So I looked up an image of a woman on Pinterest in a nice fancy dress with her leg coming out of a little slit in the dress, and I'm like, yes, perfect. Let's turn this dress into the ghost. So here we have a sheet ghost with a little sensual leg coming out of the dress, essentially. And I don't know what it is, but whenever I make silly drawings, I like to put human legs on creatures or objects that are not human, and then I give the legs fishnets and high heels, and it just fills me with joy. I don't know what it is. It's so goofy and silly, but I love to do that for some reason. So I added some fishnets on, I added some heels, the arms are up in the pose that the woman had in that photo that I was using for reference. And you can bet that I was pretty much cackling the entire time I was drawing this one. This one is so funny to me, and I just had a great time making it, honestly. I go back in with my trusty brush pen from Pentel. I like to use this brush pen whenever there's not any crazy small details, because I like the fact that there's variation in the line width to it. But whenever there's a bunch of tiny details, I usually stick to the micron pens. Recently, I had done a study on drawing some folds in fabric, and I feel like that really helped me in this drawing in particular. I certainly feel a bit more comfortable with drawing folds in clothing than I previously have, so I think that the study I did on the folds of fabric really helped me out a little bit, actually. I grabbed my little sushi eraser, erase all of the pencil lines, and I actually put a pop of color into this one, so I got, it looks like a rose art, maybe? Oh, Crazy Art is the brand of that marker. It's just a generic red, cheap, water-based marker. I slap in some color there in the background, and I thought that red would be perfect for that sensual little high heel. A nice black border around it, slap in some shading, and I also put a bit of a gradient in the background as well, just to give it a little bit of depth added to it. I actually pulled out a Copic marker for the color on the leg because I don't really have any nice skin tones from the cheap markers I had, so yeah, I pulled out a Copic marker just for that part, specifically. And after putting all of the finishing details in there, here we have day 4, under the sheet. Alrighty, we are on to day number 5 of Inktober. So the prompt for this one was secret staircase, and you can see I'm using a nail file to draw some straight lines here. I don't know, I guess it was just handy at the time, like it was already on my desk, so I'm like, hey, this has a straight line. Why don't I use this? So the concept of this one is a pretty classic one. It's like a secret passageway behind some bookshelves. I have always really loved the idea of secret passageways and like hidden rooms behind bookshelves. I've actually been in a couple of hidden rooms behind bookshelves before, and both times I have gone into rooms like that, it has been such a delight and just filled me with glee. I don't know what it is, it just makes me happy. But here we have a rare background for me. I have this bad habit of avoiding drawing backgrounds for some reason. I don't necessarily always enjoy drawing backgrounds, and I'm not necessarily the best at drawing them, so here we have a little sheet ghost going up this mystery staircase. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this one. This one was one of my favorites from the first week of Inktober. I really like how this one in particular turned out, and the fact that I actually drew a background for once in my life, I was like, yes, let's go! I'm finally doing the background thing. But yes, as you can see, I am using a Micron pen here, since this one has a bit smaller details to it. I didn't want to use the brush pen necessarily. I pull out my trusty sushi eraser and erase all those little pencil lines. I really enjoy leaving borders on sketchbook pages. I'm not sure why, but I'm guessing it's because it just looks clean. It's like a picture frame almost. And I pull out my trusty little grayscale markers once more. There's one method I like to use occasionally where I will do grayscale or just straight up black and white and use a single color within the piece, and using just one color against all of the, grayscale black and white stuff really makes that one color pop. So once I am done just putting in all of the flat colors here for this drawing, I do some shading, some cross-hatching. Then I go in with a blue marker. So I go in and I color the flame of the candle blue, and then I do a little bit of a lighting effect to where you can see some of that blue glowing around the candle and a little bit of blue reflecting onto the ghost as well. And here is the result of Day 5, Secret Staircase. And now, on to Day 6 of Inktober. So the prompt for Day 6 was Haunted House. And you know what that means? I had to draw more backgrounds. That's not such a bad thing, but drawing houses in particular is not really my strong suit, so the actual layout of this house is pretty simple. I didn't do anything too crazy with the actual structure of the house, so I'm pulling out my ruler again. It's just a little cute single-floor house, single-story. I wanted to make it look like it's a little bit decrepit, kind of falling apart. So one part of the porch there is resting on cinder blocks, as you can see. There's some spider webs hanging down, there's some cracks on the outer portion of the house, there's wooden planks nailed over the door, and even the little beams of the porch are kind of falling apart, some chunks are missing, just wanted to make it nice and spooky feeling. And then we have a mysterious monster tentacle coming out from underneath the house there. There's a little mouse coming outside. But on the inside, there's a nice little ghost just chilling with a cup of coffee or maybe some tea, looking outside, And it really brings a little bit of a cozy element to this drawing, I think. You have all these little spooky, creepy crawly things, and then you have a little ghost friend just hanging out, having some tea, looking outside, enjoying the weather. And I think it brings that little cozy kind of sense. I also went with a square composition for this one. And you can't see the entire house in the frame, but that's okay. I wanted to zoom in a little bit so you could capture all the tiny little details. I wasn't crazy about how this one turned out. It's fine. I don't dislike it, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite out of the batch, I suppose. And that's okay. That happens. Some things you're bound to like more than others. Out of the backgrounds I had to draw for this one, for this week, I do prefer the background on the previous piece with the staircase, but this one, it passes. It's passable. I'll allow it. I use a little brush tip marker to fill in the black area of the doorway. And then, you guessed it, I pulled out the trusty grayscale markers again. I swear, I'm going to use up all of these markers during this month of October. Like, these markers are going to dry up so fast with how much I've been using them, but I can't stop because I just love the effect that they give these drawings. It really fits the mood. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for the replacement package of these grayscale markers, I'll just keep using these ones and hope and pray that they will last until the other ones come in. I think that the bushes kind of blend into the background. It's fine because they weren't a huge background element anyway, but I do wish that the bushes were a little bit more visible than they currently are. Did some cross-hatching with the Micron pen, and voila! Here's the final result! And lastly, we have the final drawing for week 1 of Inktober, day 7, with the prompt of Ghost Pets. I was super excited for this, and immediately I was like, I want to draw a ghost dog. My mind was already set on that, and I even tried Googling other pets to see if there was another type of pet that I wanted to draw, but ghost dog really just felt right to me. So here we have a little ghost dog. I even gave him a little floppy ear. I am trying to be a bit better about drawing animals these days. So recently my sketchbook has had more animals, which I think is a good thing. I've started to branch out a little bit with the types of things I draw, and I think that's really good, especially if I want to create a comic. Like, I'm gonna have to learn how to draw backgrounds eventually if I want to make a comic, you know? So I have to be able to draw all matter of things so I can be more effective in storytelling, essentially. So yeah, I was excited to get to draw this cute little ghost dog. It kind of mimics those long-haired dogs where their hair is dragging on the ground and you can hardly even see their legs. And here we have another little ghost just walking the dog along. Pretty simple, pretty cute. Nothing too crazy. Like, I had gone pretty hard on the backgrounds the previous couple days, so for this day I said, you know what, let's keep it simple. We don't have to do anything crazy. Simple does not necessarily mean bad either. Sometimes simple is actually better. So I pull out a trusty little brush pen that I love to use and get to work with doing all of the line art. It's so funny because I actually really love doing line art on things. I know that line art is the bane of some artists' existence, and I know so many artists who just loathe doing line art, but it's actually one of my favorite parts. It's almost therapeutic for me in a way. The stressful part for me is usually either the sketching or the coloring, because with the sketching I'm paying attention to things like anatomy and is this going in the right place? But with line art, the bases are already there. You kind of just have to shut off your brain, you do some tracing, and the only thing you really have to think about is maybe some line variation if you want to add that extra depth to the line arts. But I don't know, I really like the process of line art for some reason. So I slap on some color here, do a little bit of shading and whatnot. And then the circle in the background of this one kind of reminded me of the moon in a sense. So the color I decided to put in the background was this really pale yellow, which kind of simulated the moon. What do you call that? Is that like a harvest moon? I'm probably wrong, but you know, just a nice spoopy little yellow moon for a nice nightly stroll with the pepperoni. And even though this one is pretty simple, I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out. I think it's pretty cute, and I had a lot of fun making this picture as well, so I liked the outcome, I liked the process, all around a good experience. And here is the final product for day 7. What did you guys think? I want to know, which one was your favorite out of the bunch? Personally, from week 1, I'm torn between the one with the leg, the leg and the heels, and the secret staircase one for week 1. I'm torn between those two personally for my favorite. But yeah, that wraps up week 1 of Inktober. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to click the subscribe button, of course. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time, bye guys!